action here from somewhere. I don't know why that's not working. That's good, isn't it? My mouse has decided to back in. I don't know why that is. Okay, anyway, never mind. We're looking at 4 verse 32 through to 5 verse 24. We won't get that far. Might hopefully get as far as verse 12. Maybe, possibly. All right? But I hope you enjoy the experience. Okay. The major part that we're going to come to is obviously looking at Ananias and Sapphira. These a married couple, one of the first married couple we come across in the New Testament in the book of Acts. And unfortunately in their situation we're going to see that things don't always go as people want them to go, and God was pretty harsh with them. And we hope we'll understand a little bit better why that happened as we look at it in more detail. But before we get that far, this is the overall view of things. A deadly peril to spiritual health in the body of Christ. The church is in its beginning. The church is growing. It is touching people's lives. And unfortunately, from within, you have a situation where hypocrisy it brings a devastating attack on the church. And if it had been allowed to grow and develop, it could have just destroyed things before they even got any further. So let's see how that works out. So the introduction. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah. Okay. It's now, okay. It is now probably weeks since the coming of God's kingdom. The apostles continue to teach, preach the gospel every day to the multitudes. The church is growing daily. Thousands are being added to the number of believers. If only that could happen in Britain today. It happens in African countries, it happens in Asian countries, and it happens in China even. But Britain has always turned their back, or many of Britain has always turned their back on God. They've had enough of God, they've got it at school, and some they don't even get it at school now. But they've had it, and they've seen sometimes, they've looked at our lives and decided to give up on God because of the mess that we're in. But anyway, the disciples in constant fellowship, learning at the feet of the apostles, worshipping and eating together, and sharing the resources as needs arise. This was a very powerful beginning in the church, and it was a closeness in the community. And I honestly think, I remember back when Corby first started in 1966, some people say 64, when the Stewarts then were moved into that little place. 2 families got together, and the church grew from those 2 families because they had fellowship together, they worked together, they did lots of things together. And I think we've lost a lot of that. Sometimes it's because of society in general moving apart from each other. And Isaac Asimov, writing in about 1947, 48, he projected a future where everybody would be in their own little flat, and you press the button and get your pizza rolled in, and press another button and get your TV channel, and you wouldn't see a soul from day to day because people would be isolated. And some of that is a truism. You know, families are not living as close together as they used to. People are constantly changing for work, for other things. They move from place to place. You lose contact. And so that I think there's an isolationist approach in our daily lives. I think we lose because of that. There's a strength of bond of fellowship that is under pressure by just the general way things are moving today. And that didn't happen back here. Of course, the other thing, they didn't have TV, of course, back in Jesus' time. That, I think, has helped. We used to talk to people in the evening, go around, knock the door and say, "Hi, how you doing? You know, any way we can help, or would you be interested in anything to do with religion or whatever?" You wouldn't say that now, but and now if you go to somebody's house at 7 o'clock at night, sorry, EastEnders on, sorry, Coronation's on, you know, they don't want to know. They don't want to communicate with people, especially if you're a door-to-door salesman, they would say it. You know, they don't want to see you when the television's on this time of night. So it's unusual, changing world and changing circumstances. But the disciples at this time were in constant fellowship. I like the one in the middle. No, okay. The rulers of the Jews have been trying to silence the apostles. They have threatened them and kept Peter and John overnight in jail. Okay? and that's not going to change much either. But up until now, they've been afraid to punish them because the people held them in awe because they had healed the crippled beggar at the beautiful gate of the temple. That miracle took place, impacted on people's lives. People had seen this man for 40 odd years. They were familiar with him. Even though some of them might be walking around the other side of the street to get away so they didn't put any pennies in his box, they still knew who he was. And they were really deeply impressed the day that he was able to walk and praise God. Because the apostles continued to draw people and testify to the resurrection of Jesus, the Jewish rulers feel that this thing's got to be stopped. We've had enough. We want to shut these people up. And that's almost a deja vu, because they wanted to do the same with Jesus, didn't they? Okay? So the apostles are going to get the same. This communal sharing together. The picture was the Palestinians sharing in a meal. In Acts chapter 4, verse 32 to 37, we learn the believers are sharing their earthly possessions with one another. And I've already picked out what I want from Ian's house, so we don't know. But anyway, maybe that was the wrong house, Ian, because you don't have a lot of it. Okay. Those who lived near Jerusalem had possessions they could sell and did so, and brought the proceeds to the apostles to be shared with those in need. Barnabas, we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Barnabas may have actually had property in one of the islands. There's a little bit of speculation of that. So it maybe even property was sold further afield than just Jerusalem. And there's arguments as to why Barnabas was in Jerusalem at the time. So what special circumstances surrounded the giving that Christians did? What motivated them to give? What was the problem? Why couldn't people survive on their own? There was a number of different reasons, and one of the reasons I come across in chapter 6 is the fact that people who were widows, if they became Christians, they were cut off from their family, and they needed special help, and that's going to come in chapter 6. But this instance before that, you see this unique situation still developing from the time in Acts chapter 2 when the people have come together from all over the world, and these thousands have become Christians, and for many of them they want to hear more and they want to stay on. But if you're anything like me, when you go on holiday, you take enough money. Well, you've only got enough money really for your holiday. You don't have too much to spare. And when you get to the end of your holiday, you run a bit short. Now, if you became a Christian at the end of your holiday, at least these people did, then that meant that you really didn't have the resources to stay, but you didn't want to go home either. You wanted to learn more. And so sometimes that was made this is part of the situation here where that might have been part of the scenario. Thousands of Jews had come from other lands for Pentecost to be converted and remained in Jerusalem to learn more about Jesus' teaching. Many had since run out of personal resources and were in need of daily food and shelter. Joseph, also called Barnabas, made a notable contribution which seems to inspire others to do the same. It's sometimes true that when somebody does something in a particular way, other people are motivated to do the same. For example, if you see a fight going on in the street between a man and a young girl, for example, everybody kind of thinks, what on earth are we going to do? You know, that should be stopped. Somebody should do something. And then somebody steps forward and tries to break it up. And others, encouraged by that, may step forward to help. They wouldn't have done it by themselves, but because somebody took the first step, then they were encouraged to do that. Well, in the opposite extreme, here's somebody who has seen a need, and he has decided, look, I'm a reasonably wealthy man, I've got some land I could get rid of, I will do that, and I'll sell it, and I'll give the money to the church to be able to help them meet this initial need. And that inspired others to do the same, to help in any way that they're shaped. Now, some of them, like the widows might have only been able to give 2 pence. But others who were in a better situation, they would have given more in order to help the common need to be able to get to deal with that. And I think part of that community spirit that they developed is really part of also the power, as well as the preaching, but also the power it helped enable, encourage the church to grow so well in the first centuries. All the believers, says, were one heart and mind. No one claimed that any of his possession was his own, but they shared everything that they had. There was no needy person among them. For from time to time, those who owned lands or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet, which is distributed to anyone who had need. Joseph, a Levite from Cyprus, whom the apostles called Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, sold the field he owned and brought the money and put it at the apostles' feet. Now, there's a couple of things about here, you know. Michael Gaunt, who some of you will remember, he had a cousin who became a Christian. And this cousin had the idea that in the early church, everybody just gave away all that they had, and so whatever, they just gave it all away. That's what you did when you were a Christian. You just gave it all away. So this guy decided when he became a Christian, he would do the same. He didn't have anywhere to live. He would just knock at somebody's door and say, you know, I haven't got anywhere to sleep tonight. Would you put me up? And then when he was very evangelical. Whenever he found somebody to talk to him about Christ, he would get to knock at the door and say, "Hi, can we use your table and can you make us a cup of coffee? I've got somebody I want to talk to Christ about. I talked about Christ." And so he would come in, you'd use your table and your coffee and your everything, and then after he had his Bible study, he would shoot off somewhere else. So basically, he was homeless and he needed support. And he saw that as being what every Christian should be. The only problem was, if all the other Christians were the same as him, he would have nowhere to go for his Bible study, nowhere to go to sleep, and nowhere to get his coffee. Because, notice what it says there. It says, all the believers were in one heart and mind. They were all united. They were encouraging each other. No one claimed that any of his possessions was his, but they shared everything that they had. There was no needy person amongst them. But from time to time, those who owned lands, just a minute, if when you become a Christian you give everything away, then these guys, once they've given everything away, they shouldn't have from time to time any more land to sell, because they've given it all away. But they didn't. Okay? They gave in order to meet a need, and as time, from time to time, when they could afford it and they could help in some other way, they would then sell some more land. If they had some, maybe some members of the early church were land speculators. They were always buying and selling land, and when they accumulated a certain amount and found a certain need, they would sell it again. All the way through the book of Acts, you find the church meeting in people's homes. Why should they have homes if they've given everything away? The church used to meet in some of these homes were quite posh. They would kind of have a big centre, a bit like Rushton Hall. If you've ever been there, it's got a nice centre right in the middle where you can have parties in the grass. They wouldn't allow you to do that, but you could have parties in the grass if you wanted. But church could meet open air within the centre of the homes. If you watch any of these films on Rome and some of the places like that, you'll see the kind of homes many of them had. And that would be the situation of the church. The church would meet at somebody's home.
Isn't that the place that you fancy?
What, Rushton Hall? Definitely.
Oh, well, we'll be able to meet there soon then, won't we?
Certainly. Well, you know, you never know your luck. You might have to, don't hold your breath. I think it's got the most beautiful cedar tree that I've ever seen in Rushton Hall. Beautiful. Anyway, so they brought them, okay? So you see that for what some people say, the early Christians, they gave everything away. No, they didn't. But what they did, when they saw a need, they met that need. And it's like when I pop round to Carol. She makes me a cup of tea, and I almost got some custard last night. I'm sure if I'd asked, I would have got some. She would have shared what she had with me. And that's the Christian fellowship they had. And it certainly was the case here in Church in Corby. So when they say that no one claimed his possession was his own, it meant that, look, this is all mine, you push off. You're not getting anything that I've got. If you have a need, a genuine need, people would meet that need. And that was the situation, okay? So this Barnabas, he set a great example. He obviously was a wealthy man in his own right. And he certainly encouraged others, though he probably didn't even say to others. Yes?
I think the word need there,
it's the important
you
one.
need, rather than, we've got an awful lot of clutter. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People don't need the clutter, but the things that they need, and it's the
Well, I've got something in your house.
I know you have.
And I don't know whether I need it or whether I want it.
Nah, you see,
I'm working on that.
He's going around everybody's house to find out what he can get.
I'm making a list. This is my needs list. And that's true. It's like Terry was saying to me the other night, something about my birthday. What is he going to get me for my birthday? And I don't need anything. I've got Frank's jacket. What more do I need? you know.
Money in it.
Occasionally, yes. I'll see you later. But anyway,
It has money in it.
so I mean, really, at my age, the stuff I've got, I don't need a lot of things. There are a lot of things that I want, but at the end of the day, I don't need it. The older you get, the more you give stuff away, and you pay good money for it, and you give it away. You know. Anyway, that's just where life is. So there's a difference between being possessive, and if you're holding on to something, if you can't help somebody because of a situation you're in, and you don't see a need and you can't do anything about it, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a difference if you see somebody in desperate need and you could help, but you say, no, it's mine, I'm holding on to it. Then that's a different matter of attitude. Next, 36 to 37, Joseph, a Levite from Cyprus, whom the people called Barabbas, which means sons of encouragement, sold a field he owned, bought the money, and put it in Wassel's feet. He was introduced to Barnabas, a companion who later became a companion of Paul. Spent a lot of time with Paul later on, okay? The one who's an important role in the early church. This man, it's interesting, he was called son of encouragement. That tells you something about him, okay? This is somebody who, no matter what the situation, he'd be first there. No matter what the need, he'd be first there. And no matter how down you felt, you know, if you talk to Barnabas, he'll boost you up. He'll help you to get back on track. So Barnabas was not just an encouraging talker, you know. Don't always, a lot of people can say the right thing or say things, but you need to be able to do things. You need to put your words into action. And that's the important aspect you see in Barnabas' life. He wasn't just somebody who says, oh, I'll help you out later. He was somebody who, he wasn't obviously one of the Scotsmen because his pockets are obviously too shallow. He was, that's not very nice, is it? That's an old joke, isn't it? Scotsmen are usually short-armed with long pockets. Anyway, Barnabas was not just a talker, but he was a doer. Okay, he talked the talk and he walked the walk. The unity of the brethren and their willingness to help one another is really crucial in this growth. Many times we appeal to the closeness of the brethren in the first century. However, we need to look at the level of commitment on the part of the brethren to one another. How great is our commitment towards helping each other? Consider the attitude expressed in Philippians chapter 2 verse 1. It says Jesus emptied himself. He took on the form of a servant. He became for us what we needed. He became our ultimate sacrifice. Okay? And we are encouraged to look upon others and see their need, and if we can help in any way, shape or form, we're encouraged to be able to do that. Selflessness, that's not easy. That's not easy to keep up, and it's difficult to do. So if there's any appeal in your union with Christ, if there's any persuasive power in love, if we have any common share in the Spirit, if you have any tender-heartedness and sympathy, fill up my cup of joy by living in harmony, by fostering the same disposition of love. Your hearts beating in unison, your minds set on one purpose. Stop acting from motives of selfish strife or petty ambition, but in humility, practice treating one another as your superiors. Stop looking after your own interests only, but practice looking out for the interests of others too. Keep on fostering the same disposition that Christ Jesus had. Tough challenge, big challenge.
Powerful words, eh?
Excellent, yeah. And being Christ-like at the end of the day, okay? That's easy to talk about, but it's very, very difficult consistently to put into practice in our lives. Okay, the results of the persecution in the early church. With great power the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and much grace was upon them all. They were bold, they were powerful, and they were practical in application, that they lived a life as if they really believed in the risen Christ. And it changed and transformed their attitudes and actions. Verse 14 says, and all the more believers in the Lord, multitudes of men and women were constantly being added to their number. That's going to be good news, isn't it? Okay, the conclusion of this section. The kingdom continues to grow in numbers. The apostles continue to be primary teachers and leaders in the early church, and attempt to intimidate them after the miracle by putting them in prison and challenging them to shut up. Don't tell anybody about this Christ. Just failed. The disciples of Jesus are solving problems as they arise through the leadership that the apostles were giving up. So opposition to true Christian community and the spreading of God's love is inevitable. Whenever you stand up for Christ, whenever you proclaim Christ, whenever you try to live for Christ, then people are going to want to bring you down. They're going to look out for your weaknesses. They're going to look to ways of nullifying your impact upon society. They see you as a threat, which is strange, but that's, you don't need to say, I think you're wrong. Your life is perhaps casting a shadow upon them, and they're challenged by your life, and they want to bring you down to show that you can be just as weak as they can be. And which, sadly, we are sometimes are. Okay, God's radical truth releases us from bonds of human control and spiritual darkness. We're free in Christ to be the best that we can be. Not free as in license to do what we like, but free to be the best that we can be in allowing God to live through our lives. There's no greater threat to the world system than a Christian who is willing to boldly proclaim, not just proclaim, boldly proclaim and live the God's message. No force can stop it except our own free choice, our free will choice to quit. We're the only ones who can walk away from God. God doesn't want to walk away from us. But we still have, because of the free will, we've got the choice of giving up, walking away. It's a spiritual warfare. Menacing tactics used against the church. Persecution, infiltration is one of the most deadly. Problems from within. Paul later on, talking to the elders before he leaves Athens, he says exactly the same things. He says, beware, wolves will come from within to destroy you. And so you've got to be careful. So once we think we've encircled ourselves and all the enemy are on the outside, then we realise we've locked in a bunch of problems in ourselves. And sometimes we don't want people to become Christians because people have problems. We've got enough problems as it is. We don't want any more. We need to get past that. Okay. So Acts 5:1 then, here's a lady contemplating. Now, a man called Ananias, together with his wife Sapphira, also sold a piece of property. That's good news. That's got to be good news. With his wife's full knowledge, he kept back part of the money for himself, but bought the rest and put it at the apostles' feet. Well, that's good news. Sold the property, gave some of it to use the church, kept some of it back to themselves. Got to be good news. No problem. But Peter said, Ananias, how is it that Satan has so filled your heart that you have lied to the Holy Spirit and have kept for yourself some of the money you received from the land? What's the problem? It was their land. It was their money. Why couldn't they keep some back? Didn't it belong to you before it was sold? Yes. After it was sold, wasn't the money at your disposal? Yes. The land was theirs, the money was theirs. They could have done with the money anything that they wanted. They could give a part of it and keep the rest if they wanted to. But what they did was wrong, or what did that was wrong was they gave a part of the money and they said that it gave it all. Okay? They said, look at us. Oh, Barnabas, he sold the land, yeah, and he gave it to the church. Boy, that Barnabas is good. Well, would you believe we sold some land and we've given it all to the church as well? Peter says, it was yours to keep. Why do you have to lie about it? It was your money. Why did you hypocrisy? You want to be seen as the Mr. Big. We gave all. How much money? Oh, we gave it all. And that was the problem. They were trying to fool the people.
But he meant to have told them to give it all, or just the people wandering about.
No, they probably told the apostles, the implication is they told the apostles, this was all. We've sold, they came in, you know, you can imagine them strutting in. We sold our piece of land and we were giving it all to the church. Look at us. How good are we? Okay? And Peter says, look, it was your money. It was your land. You could do with it what you liked. You didn't even need to get any of it to the church. But how on earth have we decided to lie? And you're going to see what he says. Today when we're lying to men, we're not struck dead instantly as these two were. Why not? What was different about this case? Okay, what was different about this case? And what made it so special? It says, what made you think of doing such a thing? You have not lied to men, but to God. When Ananias heard this, he fell down and died. And great fear seized all who heard what happened. Yeah, what happened to Ananias? Paul said, well, Peter said.
But I only just read this the other day, right? But I didn't catch
The implication.
That they turned round and told everybody else, or told them.
The part of the thing is, when they brought, I think, because they're looking for prestige, because they're looking for a pat in the back and saying, look how good we are. It wasn't something they could come along and say, Peter, I'll tell you, we had another day, we had this piece of land sold, and I want to give it to the church, okay? Don't say anything. Just put it in the kitty, okay? And that's not the approach. This guy, he's come in, maybe chosen a really good time in the meeting when everybody's around and everybody's aware, and he said, Peter, I've got something to tell you. And everybody said, what's it? We sold a piece of land the other day, and we got this one, look, and it's all going to the church. What do you think of that then? See? A public, that was why, well, we're going to see, that's why this is going to be so severe. Because it couldn't be hidden. It couldn't be, Peter and taking him around the back and says, you did the wrong thing there. This is everybody was saying, we had about Ananias and Sapphira. See what a great couple they are, what a gift they gave. Boys, oh boys, that's really great, that is. Everybody's talking about it. So God's going to make a little bit of a display. Then a young man came forward, wrapped up his body and carried right. You imagine what's going to happen to the church, the effect on the church. Okay. But 3 hours later, his wife was there not knowing what had happened. 3 hours later, here's a guy who's died, and nobody has told the wife. Here's somebody who has died in public, and nobody has gone for the wife and family. If there is a family, nobody's gone for wife. 3 hours have gone past, and she comes in, all innocent, all unknowing, and he says, tell me, this price you and Ananias got for the land, yeah, this is the price, this is the price. How could you agree to test the Spirit of the Lord? Look, the feet of the men who buried your husband are at the door, and they will carry you out also. Healing the lame man after 40 years of being lame. Wow, that's something special, isn't it? But here's a negative thing from God. And this is just as special and just as important. The church is just beginning to grow, and here's a couple who have agreed together to conceal something, to proclaim something that they're not. It could have wiped the church out before even, but you're hypocrites. How often do you hear people say that about the church today? People who go to church, they're all hypocrites. We don't want anything to do with them. Doesn't stop them going down to the pub. And there are lots of hypocrites in the pub there as well. And it doesn't stop them going to the football match. A lot of hypocrites there as well. But the church, no, they should be better. They should live better. They should be different. And therefore, a bunch of hypocrites down there. The good news is there's always room for one more. Anyway, this is pretty strong stuff.
Why do you think that 3 hours went past nobody?
Do you know,
Do you think they were all fearful?
Frightened, yeah. I think one of the implications of the text is that people, I think you're going to see later, that was the initial response to the death of Ananias. People are wow, what an earthquake. You imagine, I've just become a Christian. Oh, dude, this is great, this. I was in need, and somebody gave me, and I was in need, somebody gave me, and I needed a bed for the night, and somebody gave me. And have you heard about Ananias? What about Ananias? He told a lie, and he was struck down dead. What? what am I coming far off? Goodness gracious me! I lie every day. You know? Wow. I mean, how many of us, if God worked the same way today, how many of us would still be here? We'd all be in trouble. You know? But because it was the purity of the church, the holiness of the church, the reputation of the church that was at this moment growing in such a manner, God had to do something, and do it publicly and powerfully. This wasn't something done in a corner, and this had a tremendous impact on people's lives. Okay, great fear seized the whole church, and all they heard about these men. Goodness, what's God going to do next? You know, He expects a lot of us. One of the reasons why many people don't become Christians today is not because they don't believe. It's because God might ask them to live their life differently. God is a God of honour, and He demands a lifestyle from His people, and therefore these are mind-staggering events in the first century. Okay, how can one explain why these two were severely punished for lying in this instance when people are not so severely punished for lying today? We get away with it today. Hopefully you don't do it that often, but implication is lying to God. The apostles were prophets of God. They represented the authority of Jesus on earth during this time, their lifetimes. Their authority could not be questioned without impunity. And Ananias and Sapphira and anyone else of that time had to know that an attempt to lie to these men, to pull the wool over their eyes, was in reality lying to God. Because they had the spirit of discernment and these other things that were especially given by the Holy Spirit, they could know when you're lying. And that's why they were able to see through what they did. Now, so the severity of punishments served as a lesson to everyone who would challenge the authority of the apostles. You cannot put anything past these men, okay? You need to...
Do you think that they sort of felt in their hearts that they knew they were... like sort of thought about it and knew they were lying to God, but you won't know?
They thought it through.
Yeah.
This was a deliberate attempt to deceive the apostles, deceive the church, and to gain praise for themselves. Now, it's always difficult. I mean, we're going to see the same thing happen time and time again. We're not going to see the same result, thankfully. But Simon later on, in trying to get gifts of the apostles that come down to sort out the others later on, you've got a similar kind of attitude there. You know, Christianity and Christians are never going to be perfect. Well, because we're people. But in this instance, because it was the birth of the church, a real example is going to be made. There's been people in the church all down through the ages have been hypocritical. You know, they've lied to God, they've lied to themselves. Goodness, most of us could probably look at our own lives and say, you know, on that such and such a date, you know, we would have time, and we know. But because of the impact it would have been in the early church, God had to make an example. And it's still an example for us today. You know, we ought, just because God doesn't strike us down today, matter of fact, later on Paul in Galatians and also in Ephesians talks in terms of liars shall not enter into the eternal kingdom. You know, in the book of Revelation talks the same thing. Liars are one of the, you know, murderers, liars. In the same bracket. You know, how many of us, you know, well, it was only a little white lie. Only bent the truth a little bit. We justify things. But in reality, when you think of it, that every time we lie, it's a sin before God, and it was our sin that helped to nail Christ to the cross. God's Son died because of our thinking, well, it's only a little one. You know? And we take it for granted. We take it far too, well, don't know what again, blasé. We're too, you know, well, it's only a little lie. And we struggle with that, you know, we do struggle with that. In the light of eternity, our eternal destiny, is to be the best that we can be with God. You know, you imagine a house-proud mother, and that's a stupid illustration, okay, but house-proud mother, and this little kid off the street, he's been going through puddles and muck and manure, and he walks in our brand new carpet. Is the mother going to say, well, yeah, well, it's only Johnny? Or is she going to say, get out of my carpet, get your feet off at least, or your shoes off at least, okay? Show some respect. And that's what we're doing to God, really. When we do that, we're saying to God, I do respect you, but, you know, there's days, there's things, you know, and we want to get away with it. But it's tough. You know, it's what you have in the first century is the church, or the teaching of the church, in the ideal. This is what we've got to attain. This is what we're going to reach for. And because we're human, because we're such a mess, often we don't quite make it. But that shouldn't stop us from trying to be the best that we can be. That's what God wants. You know, if we do something good for a change, we want somebody to pat us in the back. Oh, you did something good. Well done. And God says, what? You know, that's what you had the ability to do. That's what you had the talent to do. And you did it. And you want somebody to pat your back for doing what should have come naturally. You know, not even something special. We want somebody to pat on the back when we do just, you know, the average. That's pathetic, really. You know, if we're going to get a pat on the back, it should be for something good. It should be for something special. But we want it for just being mundane. And that's tragic, really. Okay? But it was pretty. Many of the disciples were still in a position to bring the money to the apostles. So the key events are here. Ananias lied about how much his wife received, so it's involved in Sapphira also lied. And then you have Vansina here and the result. Boy, this is serious stuff. This is life-changing stuff. It's God we're dealing with here. If we didn't think so before, you know, sometimes we need a wake-up call. This is God we're dealing with. You know, sometimes when we hide in a little corner, we think we can get away with anything. Nobody sees us. Hey? God's with us everywhere. There's no place we can't hide. That's why we need to be the best we can be. But it's also, thankfully, because of His blood, that, you know, when we mess up badly, God, you can almost see God up there saying, there he goes again. Look at the state of him. You know, you think you know better than by now. And he shakes his head. And then when we fall flat in our face, he picks us up. Come on, have another go. That's amazing. That's love. It's amazing. Okay, and as far as lying to the Holy Spirit and to other Christians, Ephesians 25 talks about lying, Colossians 3 verse 9 talks about lying. And as far as actually we're supposed to be one of the selflessness. Look at us. Well, actually, you shouldn't have been. You know, if you're doing good, Jesus said, if you're doing good, don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing, or vice versa. Just, you know, do it and just do it. You don't do it for look at me, I'm doing good. It shouldn't be. Esteeming their brethren greater than themselves, instead their act was not one of selflessness, but selfishness. We want the accolade. We want to be like Barnabas. He's gone down in history. Barnabas, his name has gone down in history. He was the one who gave for God. Well, they've gone down in history. Yeah. They're the one who took away from God. Tragic. I try to pull the wool over God's eyes, and that's tragic. Everybody knows that nice.
I feel sorry for the wife, because if she is a good wife, which most men are fortunate and they do have a good wife, she'll support her husband. Back up her husband in everything he does. Even if he murdered somebody, she would be there to help to support him. And I can see her working it out. Maybe she did agree with it, and maybe she didn't agree with it, but she was backing up what her husband had said. And I feel sorry just in case she was in that position. That's true.
There could be that in it. But the implication of the text is, you know, if you see somebody today who's ripped off the bank, you know, and they're living in a big house, and the wife knows that she's living in a big house, not because the guy's been out earning a few bob properly. She knows where the TVs come from. She knows where the three-piece suites come from. And so she says, I'll close my eyes to that. And that's in our society today. But she wasn't even going that far. She wasn't saying, I'm going to close my eyes to this. Because the implication is the text, build up to the text, Ananias agreed, yes, this is going to make us up there for Barnabas, us.
But he asked her the question again.
To give it a chance.
As if he's given a chance to say, okay,
I said, yeah, court plea, but no, she didn't. And though that, you've got to be fair, but at the same time, because of the reaction, you understand that there's got to be, he's not going to kill her for nothing.
We feel as if it's harsh.
Yes,
don't we?
I think it's harsh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it.
Well, we just think, well, it was just a lad,
Yes.
And, you're going to forgive, like, your child if they lie to you. You're going to tell them that you think it's wrong, but you still forgive them.
Yeah.
So we feel it's really harsh.
All through the Lord's history and his dealings with people, it has been harsh. The two priests that offered foreign fire to the...
He hates hypocrisy.
Mm.
He really, also, look at these religious leaders, but he loves honesty. Nicodemus was a religious leader, he was fair with people, but he hated people who were trying to be something they weren't, because that had implications for the rest of society, and it wasn't just them themselves, but it had, took others with them. So anyway, time was just about out. Only about. Anyway, okay. I'll just. The authority of the apostles. Jesus did not walk in earth in human form today, but the apostles did not walk in human form. What did I? Jesus did not walk in earth in human form today. The apostles and the apostles do not walk in earth in human form today. But Jesus and the apostles are still the primary authorities in the church today. Okay? Jesus wrote nothing, but he rules his kingdom today through the written word of the apostles. Paul said the written word trumps the oral word of anyone claiming to be a prophet. So the written word takes precedence. Writer John, later on, 1 John chapter 4, turns around and says, if you don't believe us, that is the apostles, you're not of God. So a lot of people today turn around and say, well, it's only Paul speaking. You can ignore him. Not true. The authority of the apostles are sharing the insight of Christ with us. And so it needs to be our authority today. Why was God so harsh with Ananias' fire? Well, there's lots of different questions you've asked and answered. But what do you learn? What do we learn from this history? Don't be a hypocrite, or ultimately God will kill you. Hypocrisy, it's only a shield. Matter of fact, every one of us are hypocrites. The Greeks, as a form of when they would do these plays, used to wear a mask, and that's the real actor was in behind a mask. So you just look to see you weren't sincere. You were hiding behind a mask. Hypocrisy.